Goila Getma, and welcome to Shift+F1, a podcast about speed race cars. That, by the way, is Azerbaijani for to walk on the sky level.
Oh, I knew that.
Yeah, I thought you might. It means to show off. Max Verstappen is out there qualifying for GT3 races just because he can. Trying to get approved to do the Nürburgring. I'm sorry, not the Nürburgring. The Nordschleife.
Oh, yeah.
24 hours. So good luck to him. That'd be fun to watch. Joining me, Daniel Dwyer. How are you, Danny?
I'm doing great. I'm big fan of when people who are good at a thing just do extra of it in their time off. It shows a genuine passion or maybe a lack of other hobbies. It's sometimes hard to get a read on that necessarily.
Passion, psychosis. Two sides.
One and the same. Dancing partners.
Speaking of passion.
Oh,
also
yeah.
joining us, Rob Zachney. How are you, Rob?
Oh, doing great. Spent the morning looking around the yard, being like, "What are those mushrooms growing there?
Oh, nice.
Those look different from the other ones." Is it nice though? There's a lot of mushrooms that aren't good.
Oh,
There's a lot of and surprisingly, they're very good at looking like normal mushrooms, but they're not.
Especially when
They're not normal mushrooms at all.
Especially when you got a doggy out there running around.
Yep.
Yeah. You got to be on top of that one because they'll eat anything. If they saw a needle, yum. Let's chomp down on that thing. Yeah.
Next thing you know, they're shooting up in their crate. Like, yep.
This is what happened. You move to a dodgy neighborhood, Rob. Those dogs are gonna get in with the local biker gangs, and that's it. It's all over.
If you're new to this podcast, a very warm welcome to you. And if you are new to Formula One itself, we recommend listening to our preseason primer episode. It assumes no prior F1 knowledge and explains how the sport works and who everybody is. So if you'd like to go back and listen to that, it's episode 298. Also, this show would not be possible without our audience over at patreon.com/shiftf1, where every month we release ad-free versions of the pod early, along with bonus podcasts and videos exclusively for our patrons that cover racing documentaries and films, F1 video games, experiments with other racing series, and a lot of weird things. So if you would like to support the show and get access to all that fun stuff, head over to patreon.com/shiftf1 or click the link in the show notes. What is going on in Patreon land this month, Danny?
Apparently, I was supposed to post a Patreon poll so that we could vote on the next. I could have no recollection of this whatsoever. I don't know what happened. Did I get abducted by aliens? Am I just that bad at my job that I have nuked the memory from my head? But as it
Well, it's good because people responded to the episode with some more suggestions for hilariously bad racing movies.
Yes, and also apparently one that we had was more of a sort of a actually funny, weird movie.
Or like a B-movie classic, so we're saving that one.
Intentionally bad and unintentionally bad are two very different things.
True.
So, oil and water. So, yes, we will be, unless I forget again, unless the aliens wipe my brain again, we will have a post up. This one will be, we have 4 movies we're going to choose from. Biker Boys from 2003. Torque, the previously mentioned Torque,
Yes,
from 2004, Trading Paint from 2019, and The Sim Racer from 3 years ago. So, I mean, that has the double whammy of most likely also being a COVID movie, which makes sense if it's a movie about a sim racer, right? So,
That's when that was really high in the public consciousness. Yeah,
right, exactly.
all sorts of normies were buying racing rigs.
Yeah. So I don't know. That one might win. It feels pretty close to our fan base, that one. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, thanks to Gaggle64, your friend Steve, Jesse, and Dalek on Discord for all these suggestions. I'll put an asterisk here. Some of these might be hard to find.
Oh,
so
great.
if we can't do the winner, we will do the second most votes. But yes, go to patreon.com/shiftf1 to vote for your quote unquote favorite.
Yes.
Which one we should watch. Which one you want to subject us to.
Before this podcast ends, we're going to be pointing people to be like, so this is only on Daily Motion, but it is the complete movie. It's a 240p.
Camera.
Yep.
It's got Hindu subtitles on it. Enjoy.
Great. And for this, it would make it better. So
exactly. It might work for this one. And a massive thanks to all of our incredible title sponsors. we had a bunch of new people in this week and people changing their names and stuff, and it confused me. Where I was like, I definitely have put in the wrong filter. These are all old people, right? But I don't believe so. But if it is, hey, welcome back. I don't think so. So hello and welcome to My Neck, My Back, My Crack. Dr. V, the chicken finger pita, a superior non-alcoholic light beer. Mad and Harmony, Deange, It's a Me Ferrario, Cryptocurrency, Mojo Nixon Gaming F1, Get Rich or Die Ryan, Agave ATX, Cyphers Training, Turf SCS, Michael Maves, Mission Winnow, TelemetryDeck.com, FTC, Drew Stewart, Bailey Foot, Rich Energy, Abraham Getchell, Bunny Money, I like it, Snigs, Alex Goucher, Maxwell Tark Keyboards, Jeff Foster, Troy Stammer, William Ramph, Online Uma Musume Betting, Lachlan the Madden Man, Samurai Love Story, and Jason Kelly. Can you bet on Uma Musume races? Probably. I mean,
I'm almost afraid to ask what that is.
Uma Musume is the horse girls
virtual
game.
horse racing. Yes,
It's the horse girls. They're
yes.
they are not horses. They are girls with the spirits of horses. They're named after real horses. They're based on real horses, that like famous Japanese betting horses.
I've played a game like this where everyone was tanks.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of this sort of
I'm dating
thing.
the T-38.
Nice. Wow,
Yep.
great. That's amazing. Kind of how good's it's turning. Is that what's the term in tank for being able to turn around fast? So
That's a Rob question.
for that?
Your pivot.
Well, it depends.
axis.
Turret traverse time
go.
is that is something you measure how fast the turret spins.
Okay.
But that is different than the hull rotation time, where you just engage one set of treads and try to spin the entire hull of the tank.
Love it.
There we go.
I love this podcast so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love.
I'm getting in on all this because I'm starting to play World of Tanks.
Yeah, wait, you're starting.
They went to 2.0, and I was like, I missed this game for like 12 years.
Yeah, I was about to say you're.
But now it's World of Tanks 2.0. I'm all in, baby. We're starting. Everyone's. It's like a new game. We're all starting from the bottom.
You're gonna be.
So I just dive in. I was fucking wrecking shop. I was like, I'm a god at World of Tanks. Like, this is incredible. And then someone was like, they do a lot of like bot matches, but as they're trying to assign you an ELO.
Sure do.
And I was like, bots. I thought these were just like they're just like a lot of like
These were veterans.
Eastern European names. Like, I guess these people just put their whole name in the game. That's kind of weird, but like, sure. Like, I guess
Like iRacing.
Yeah.
I downloaded and installed Gunner Heat PC, but I have
Yes,
I have not been able to bring myself to launch it. I'm too scared.
bro. So it is not hard to get into.
Okay.
Learning curve is actually pretty low for some of the stuff you get into.
Great.
Some tutorial battles the thing that's hard is tank combat.
Right.
Some of the tutorial battles are a fucking bastard to get through. Like the first one where they have you in a tank battle is rough. But the thing I'll say about Gunner Heat PC, it has some of the best audio I have ever heard in my life. Like, this is like, do you remember how good the sound was in Bad Company 2?
So
Yeah.
that's
This
always
is
my
the
touch
Bad
point.
Company 2
Oh
of
my God.
Armored Warfare games.
Yeah.
And like the voice acting for crew members, like during combat, as like near misses come in, they have different dialogue that like sounds like people are starting to get like tense up and like terrified in the tank.
Oh, wow.
It's insane, dude. Gunner Heat PC is the shit. Also, their blog updates are incredible because they go into like historical archive stuff about like, we're having a real hard time learning about this German tank destroyer. There's not a ton of like footage or photography of what the gunner interface was, but we found, and like, so their blog posts are like, 2,000 word deep dives on like, so here's the exact color. Here's how we discovered what color phosphors they're using in the gun sight. It's like, yes, love it.
That's what
Great.
to further go down the random tank video game or audio hole here. I'm working on a white label project on Arc Raiders, the new extraction-y thing. It's hard
Shooter
to
video game.
It's hard to genre a lot of these games these days. Okay. But one of the people I interviewed as part of this series, it was Benza Pajor, who is the sort of the. I mean, Dice's audio team was all really good, but he's kind of, I think, the guy who made the weapon noises for the Battlefield games. And he is like a super interesting dude because he's just like, he had never worked as an audio guy before. He had like done loads of like sort of audio technical.
Did you his background is music?
What'd you say?
Didn't you say his background is music?
Oh yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. His background was in music and stuff. And yeah, but he just so happened that he had been it was a time when in Sweden he was old enough that he had served in the Swedish army, done his year or whatever, like they used to back then, and he was just like, yeah, guns and bombs are violent. Like when they asked me to make gun noises, I was like, well, guns suck.
Let's make them scary.
Yeah, they like make your guts move. Like is the term he used. It's like such an honest. I've been dying for years to try and interview somebody at Dice who was responsible for all that audio, and then I met the guy and he was just like, "Yeah, of course. What else were they going to sound like? Have you ever fired a gun?"
So often the interviews we get available are like, so we're really listening to the community on like multiplayer balancing and all that, and it's like, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't care. I'm not like, I hear this every year. Also, I'm not good at this game. People who are good at this game don't consume my content. I really just want to know why there's so many different versions of echo reverb based on your surroundings, materials around it. How do you do that? Is there like a physics simulation happening of the different audio? That's the stuff I want to know.
It's funny because I asked him about that. I was like, were you guys using like a bunch of this tech? Because around, Half-Life 1 time, even they were doing, some of these reverb sims and things like that. And he was like, no, he was like, we record the shots from every direction. We record the sound of something hitting something. We record the sound of metal hitting rock, of this hitting that. He said we just record so much. We just record and record and record and record and record, and we have everything. And when they're doing the guns in particular, they record like the distance. They record from far away. They record closer. They record different caliber. Like it's just like, yeah, you just think, oh, there must be some like really smart tech behind this, and it's like, no, this guy just like records everything. That's why it sounds so good. Yeah,
man, it's the shit.
So yeah. Anyway, it's never one person. It's always a team. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
Awesome.
Didn't have World of Tanks on our bingo card this podcast. I did. Oh, my proudest moment maybe ever as a parent happened at PAX up in Seattle, the video game conference, when they always have that room with the Steel Battalion controllers.
Yes.
And so they had like an 8-player Steel Battalion, and I walked in and there was one free console, and I sat down and did it, and then I absolutely murdered everyone else. It was great. I was my proudest moment. Yeah, as a parent.
The best room at PAX every year.
Yeah, it's terrific.
All right, well, as you can maybe tell, we are padding because there's not a lot of news here, but we do have a bunch of emails. So,
hooray!
Yeah, we're getting deep into not just tanks, but hopefully F1 cars here in a bit. Rob, what's going on in the news regarding sprint races?
So there's a couple things. One is that, and this is just in keeping with broader trends with the sport, F1 is pushing to get to 10 sprint races by the 2027 season. Promoters, for obvious reasons, really want it. So that is that is an area of emphasis coming from the promoters. They want to sell out those 3 days, and sprints are a way to do that. It's got the backing of the promoters and FOM. So, that's 2/3 the major stakeholders. I think the opposition is going to be the teams, but if football gives us teaches us anything with them going to a 17-week regular season, if there's money on the table, and the only thing it costs is like the physical health and well-being of workers, then they're going to go get that money. So maybe there will be a cost cap adjustment to cover the additional time they're running the cars and additional accidents that are generated. But it certainly seems like there's a lot of momentum for this, and I think also warmed up to the sprint format that they've sort of settled on. I think it has started to get better with the do a practice, do a sprint quali, sprint race, Grand Prix quali. It makes sense, but it is not the cure to what ails F1. We've had a number of boring sprints. We've had some great ones. So we will see. We'll also see next year some new sprint locations join the calendar. There will be a sprint at Silverstone at Zandvoort for the final year that Zandvoort is running. Montreal is getting a sprint, and so is Singapore, which it's certainly photogenic.
They should do a daytime one at Singapore.
Well, that's actually so. I don't know. I think they even practice at night in Singapore.
They do. Yeah.
Because Abu Dhabi, just because the time zones, those practice sessions are in the late afternoon. But then the race is at dusk. But yeah, I think Singapore it's just all full night. So those will probably be two night races. I'm sure the drivers will be suffering either way in the heat and humidity. And then returning to the sprint calendar for next year, China and Miami, which were good sprints. So that is the calendar for next year for the sprints.
Wild. Yeah. I understand the business reality behind it, the justification for it. Also like the entertainment justification for it, I guess, to a certain extent, but yeah, it's not. I don't know. It feels a little bit like the Happy Meal's not got that much nutrition in it, so we're just going to throw a toy in to make everyone happy, and it doesn't feel like we're having our vegetables with an F1 race if there's not a lot of practice sessions. So I don't know. Just it feels something about the spirit of it feels off. It feels very much like, yeah, I get it, but is this just super money grabby now?
Yeah, to me, it just dilutes the spectacle of the races themselves.
Yeah.
So I by the time I get to the race, I've watched 2 qualifyings and a sprint, and I'm kind of bored of the track. I'm kind of just ready for this to be done. Yeah, I don't know. We've talked a lot about the sprints before, but it seems increasingly just like going to be part of the F1 reality.
Yeah, you're like the F1 purist who likes the edging of getting to the race last. You know what I mean? Like enjoying three days of just waiting for that release. I understand.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Danny.
Yeah.
Who has been released from penalty?
Carlos Sainz has been released from penalty. Do you remember that? So there was an incident in Zandvoort where him and Liam Lawson had it coming together, which pretty much everyone said, oh, come on. That has racing incident written all over it. So they've had the penalty overturned. This is largely, I think, sort of a formality. Obviously, Sainz got a 10-second drive or 10-second penalty for it, which he did serve during the race because both of them were... both of the cars were damaged anyway, so I'm not really sure how much it would have mattered had he not gotten that. Would he gotten up into the points? Probably not. But he did get a couple of points on his license because of the incident as well, so those have been revoked.
Okay.
And I think it just really irritated Williams. Like, it kind of, which I understand, it was one of these, like, oh, I don't know about that, folks. Sort of incidents. So that's been wiped clean.
So they Williams protested, and the FIA was like,
yes,
yeah, you're right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do they have any language about like why exactly?
They put in a formal complaint on it, and it got overturned. The stewards agree with Williams' characterization of the collision as a racing incident, said the report. So it's pretty cut and dry. It's the stewards are satisfied that the collision was caused by a momentary loss of control by car 30. That's Lawson. However, in the steward's assessment, no driver was wholly or predominantly to blame for that collision. So,
Sorry about those 10 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
BT dubs.
Yeah. So, yeah. I think I like it. That was a silly one, and if nothing else, whenever these incidents happen, it does feel like precedent is important in F1 to some degree. So, I'm glad that one was retconned.
Yeah. All right. Well, finally here. Just a quick note about the Constructors' Championship as we head into the... we got 8 rounds remaining. 3 of which are sprint events. And it seems that it's certainly very possible that McLaren could clinch the Constructors' Championship mathematically by the end of this round. The only ways that they could not do that would be if Ferrari wins this weekend. Although, as this racefans.net article points out, Ferrari haven't won a single race all year. Mercedes, if they did a 1-2, they could prevent McLaren from winning the title at Baku. But if either of those two contenders fail to score, McLaren would only need 9 points to clinch the title, for which a single car finishing 5th would more than suffice. So,
Wow. Okay.
it looks to be a pretty done deal, but theoretically, we could go to Singapore
That's wild.
before they win. Yeah, this is the earliest a constructor will have won the championship title since 1988, when McLaren did it. In terms of percentage of season left.
Oh, okay.
The title
Yeah,
was
I was
won.
about to ask because of the lack of races back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, look, this is Red Bull would have had this wrapped up as well earlier in previous years had they a second car that was or somebody was able to drive that second car. So yeah, I'm surprised. I'm trying to think when Mercedes locked it up, because like Red Bull had their dominant times, but they were never that clear of the pack, whereas Mercedes really were in the Rosberg Hamilton days. So
Yeah, it's looking like so for comparison's sake, if McLaren wrapped it up in Baku, we would have 29% of the season left. When they last did it in 1988, there was 31% of the season left. So the Mercedes years, what are we talking, like 2013 to 17? We're looking at 15, 16, 21, 19, and 15%.
Right.
So, yeah, that's in there. That's a lot.
Maybe a lot of this as well is we're at the end of an era and we're not just having, those cars probably had more retirements, maybe, Also, Hamilton crashing into Rosberg in Spain took out both of them for that one. So, there's probably incidents like that. That's crazy. That's really, really strange.
It just highlights the dominance that they are seeing.
Yeah.
All right, that is it for news. We're going to take a quick break, and then we will be back with the track walk. All right, Denny, take us to
Baku. Yes, we're in beautiful Baku in Europe. It used to be the European Grand Prix. Do you remember that? The European Grand Prix.
the inaugural.
Great. It's like confusing to Europeans, like when Israel is in the Eurovision before. But I mean, just, not talking about current climate, why Israel's in the Eurovision, which is a whole other question. I'm just talking about it was confusing when they first appeared in the Eurovision. And then
Next to Australia.
And then Australia appeared. And then we were like, Israel doesn't look so bad geographically when you consider Australia. Are we just saying white people? Is that what the Eurovision is? Like, what's the cutoff? Because I know a lot of North African countries.
Because country has a discotheque. Because we all like a particular, like that ain't the standard. Otherwise, there'd be more countries in it.
Right? You know who likes to like listen to music and dance to music? Like people from like Algeria and Morocco and But no, we're gonna go.
Two countries with a discotheque have never fought each other.
Did I see a thing where the Eurovision organizers were like, if countries want to withdraw from Eurovision, that's their business. We support, like, they will, like, it seems like they're seriously saying we'll watch half a dozen entrants leave.
Ireland are boycotting it this year over the.
Please don't make us win again. We can't afford it.
That used to be the problem. In fairness, Ireland has very little chance of doing well in Eurovision, I think, for the future. But there is a notable episode of Father Ted where we were winning so much in the 90s that we threw the joke was that we put in somebody who was never going to win because the national broadcaster couldn't afford to put it on for a third time in like 5 years or whatever.
Right, because the winner has to host.
Yeah, the winner has to host. Yeah, so that's like a sort of a apothecary story from 90s Eurovision time. But yeah, Baku, I've never been there. Azerbaijan.
All right.
Looks like a beautiful city. It's
got a castle.
It's got a castle. This is a legit street circuit. This isn't one of your like we're making a fake street circuit somewhere, Jeddah.
Yeah.
Like this is like
Or Montreal or Australia.
exactly a hybrid street. No, this is like we're on the streets here, and because
We're flipping up manhole covers.
we're flipping up. We're right. We're sucking manhole covers off the ground.
We were bouncing off the walls of the castle as we go through the gatehouse.
There's a castle right there. Exactly. The portcullis comes down if you're not fast enough.
It's like a mini golf course. Like it was real. It was pretty harrowing when Lance Stroll's car was just bisected by the gate coming down. That was
By the windmill.
We're lucky he survived.
Yeah.
He got somebody poured tar on his car, like hot oil on his car when the arrows were being fired. There's 90-degree turns here, which you could stick some lights on this, so the cars have to stop and wait for their turn. It would be super exciting. But yeah, Baku is a weird track. It got added in 2016. I think it took a lot of people by surprise because it was neither a particularly notable capital city for lots of the sort of like Euro-centric folks who watch this sport. But it was also not so petro-statey, like it clearly is, but it's not. It wasn't like Dubai or
F1's
or
cool in lots of authoritarian states.
Exactly,
your money
right.
can be from whatever. It doesn't just have to be oil.
That's true. Russia.
Really, the question is, do you have strong men who can just sort of make things happen?
And then they produced this race, but it ended up being very beautiful, like sort of like a really interesting place to race, a legit street circuit, and then it kept providing really interesting moments. Like some of it was to do with the track, and then a lot of it was to do with just random things that would happen there. Who
can forget Lewis Hamilton sounding absolutely zooted out of his mind? And being like, did I leave magic on at the restart where he left his he left his cold start mode engaged for a restart and just flew off the track and threw away a win.
His rear brakes did not engage. His front brakes locked up, and Checo I think was in second, or maybe it was first. For some reason I think it was.
Was
Checo.
that 2021? Was that one of the many things where like if things had gone the other way, like that was that a little mistake?
I don't know if I didn't write.
Everything becomes decisive by the end of that season.
Right.
Anything goes differently for either driver. The championship changes results. But, it was...
Verstappen was out of that race at that stage, or at least he was so far back, because I'm pretty sure it was Checo who was in second when that
but
happened.
Hamilton dumping the points. Like, losing an assured
win. It was
win.
4 laps left or something.
Yeah.
We've had loads of instances. The first year was the year that Vettel and Hamilton had that. Remember when Vettel just like road raged, hit Hamilton's tire?
Yes.
Under the safety car. That was bizarre. Grosjean crashing under the safety car is a classic.
Blaming Kevin Magnussen,
yes,
who was like 30 feet behind him.
I think it was Ericsson. Was it Magnussen?
Oh, was it Ericsson?
I think I think Ericsson hit us. Was the quality line? He said no, Roman, nobody hit you. Ricardo and Verstappen crashing on the straight, remember, into turn 1.
Oh, yes. That was amazing.
That was a pretty good one.
Checo and Sainz, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stroll had a meaty crash on the straight. Remember, he was just like gunning it down that super long straight, and that was when he was like, red flag, get me out of here, because he was like stuck in the middle of the track with his busted ass car.
Who was it who clipped their back tire by the castle? Because
Leclerc?
their sim... Was it Leclerc?
It was Leclerc, yeah.
Yeah, the sim data was like millimeter wrong about the clearance on that chicane.
Yeah, so it has these moments, but a lot of these are not necessarily because of the track, right? Some of these are, just interesting things that have happened at this race. So it's been around since 2016, so almost 10 years, 51 laps, 6 kilometers on the button almost. So that's 3.7 miles. And yeah, it's an interesting track because like there are certain moments where it's like super wide, like that it has a straight that has like 4 apexes on it, but it's basically one big long straight, the whole back half of the track. And then there's lots of very weird technical turns, like lots of these little 90-degree turns. There's parts where the in Sector 2 especially, where the track does tighten up, but it's actually like fairly wide. Like some of these turns you can easily go 2 cars wide, and there's some parts of the track where you can have 3 cars wide, no problem, with space to boot. So it's a strange track. It's sort of it's not typical. It's atypical of a lot of the Formula One stuff.
By and large, I would say it's become one of my favorites. It's very photogenic. I think it's everything you want a street circuit to be in a lot of ways. The politics, as always, kind of remain somewhat abysmal, and we're sort of keeping in the tradition of people not really paying attention to anything that happens to Armenians.
Right.
But
yes.
beyond
of course.
that, it's a hell of a venue.
Yeah. And I think it's usually pretty warm. We've never had inclement weather here. I don't think. I can't think of any rain we've had. Maybe
That's
it has
a good
happened,
question.
but I can't think of it. Isn't it?
I can remember it being gray. I can't remember rain.
It's always sunny in Baku, as they say. It's on the banks of the Caspian Sea, right?
It is, yes. It looks like, if we could just, while we're talking about weather, we have a 15% chance on qualifying day for rain and 10% on race day. So, but weather-wise, or temperature-wise, 71 Fahrenheit on qualifying day, 22 Celsius, and the same on race day, with a little more overcast sky. High winds on qualifying day. We're looking at like 20 miles an hour.
All right.
Or 31 kilometers an hour. And then on race day, that calms down to about half that. So, I could see wind being a real problem whipping through the streets between buildings and stuff. This race, let's see, my own ratings. Last year I rated it a 4 out of 4. I have here 3-way battle for the lead for most of the race, plus a battle between the championship rivals lower in the order. Then Sainz and Perez crash on the penultimate lap, and Piastri wins his second race. So yeah, that was a good one. The 2 years before that, I've rated a 2 out of 4 in 2022 and 2023 for strategy race. So yeah, crazy stuff can happen, and it can result in what street races kind of normally result in. In terms of team and driver form, this tends to be one of Verstappen's, I think just through happenstance, perhaps, weaker tracks. Let's see. Hülkenberg also does not go particularly well here historically. Drivers who have done well, Stroll and Tsunoda. Team-wise, Red Bull has the strongest record here in the modern era, although it's all modern era. Aston Martin does well here. McLaren tends not to do well here. So we shall see.
Well, yeah. Or they either don't do well or win a Constructors' Championship.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, grain of salt, etc. In the Drivers' Championship, Oscar Piastri leads Lando Norris by 31 points, who himself is 63 points ahead of Max Verstappen in third. George Russell's fourth, 36 points back. Charles Leclerc is fifth, 31 points back. Lewis Hamilton sixth, 46 points back. Alex Albon is seventh, 47 points back. And Andrea Kimi Antonelli is only 4 points back in eighth place. Isaac Hadjar is ninth, 28 points removed. And Nico Hülkenberg, 10th, just 1 point back from Hadjar. Then we've got Stroll, Alonso, Ocon, Gasly, Lawson in 15th. Then Bortoleto, Behrman, Sainz, Tsunoda, and the pointless drivers of Colapinto and Doohan. Constructors' Championship, McLaren, of course, on top. 617 points. That is 337 ahead of Ferrari, who are only 20 points ahead of Mercedes. And Mercedes only 21 points ahead of Red Bull. So still, anything can happen in positions 2 through 4. Williams is 153 points back in fifth. Aston Martin is 24 points back from Williams in sixth. Then it's just a 1 point gap down to Racing Bulls in seventh. That's another heated battle.
Yeah.
Sauber is in eighth, just 6 points back from Racing Bulls. Gene Hassan team, they are in a semi-solid ninth place. They're 11 points away from Sauber, but 24 points ahead of Alpine in 10th.
Beautiful.
Yep. And I already went through the weather, went through the standings. If you'd like to join the standings yourself, virtually
Virtual.
in your headcanon, fantasy,
Mm.
you can join our official Shift+F1 League in the show notes.
Fantasy.
And you can also send us an email at shiftf1podcast@gmail.com or f1.cool/emails.
Cool.
Rob,
Zach.
do you want to take us through these emails here?
Sure. Our first one is with Cadillac seemingly entering the sport for sure in 2026 as the 11th team, are we headed back to the days when not every team would compete on race day? If not, what is the cap on the number of teams where everyone can still compete? Signed, Curious about qualifying in Columbus. Well, Curious, I think one of the things that's really different now is that it is such an investment to get into F1. Look at how much for 2-3 years Andretti was trying to get into the sport, and there were all the issues around there being an anti-dilution fee charged to get into the sport. There is no way anyone is going to invest to get into F1 and then allow a sporting regulation to mean that your team that you paid $1 billion to field will not be able to compete in the races. So that is one of the, like, this is why a lot of sports leagues, they want to get away from, like, if in the history of the sport there's a tradition of relegation, they want to get away from that because the money interests that sort of are steering the direction of a lot of sports now, they don't want an investment to suddenly become worth less because the team stops being good and ends up not competing at that level. So that's the real reason I think you're never going to see qualifying actually mean qualifying like it used to get into the race. As for how many cars the grid can sustain, that's a good question. If you look at IndyCar, which is a pretty good analog in a lot of ways for F1, they have a huge field of cars. 33 cars compete at the Indy 500. Not quite so many compete at your average IndyCar race. And admittedly, the cars are a bit smaller and a bit slower. But nevertheless, like IndyCar, there's not much. There's very little discussion about, like, do we have too many cars in the field?
Yeah.
And F1 grids used to be huge. Like, a lot of F1 races used to have a lot of cars in the field. That was even after, like, qualifying winnowed some out. But in some of the concern trolling around allowing another team onto the grid, you did hear teams say things like, we don't even have the garage space for additional teams to join the grid. We couldn't possibly allow more than 10 teams. 10 teams is as big as F1 could ever possibly be. That kind of falls apart as well when you look at how a lot of these venues also host endurance racing events where you have, like, F1 sized grids for, like, 3 different like tiers of racing
cars,
all occupying the same track. So it's considerably expandable. So we're not going to see qualifying go back to be like a true qualifying thing. You will see people pretending like F1 couldn't sustain more teams just logistically. That is posturing. If the money is right, there will be more teams, but the existing ones don't want to lose their notoriety, such as it is. So really, this comes down to, like, how can F1 get the most money and value out of allowing new teams on the grid? If the Cadillac thing goes really, really well, it wouldn't surprise me if we see, more teams, more discussion about maybe allowing more teams onto the grid. And you'll watch Cadillac probably try to shut the door behind them and say that 11 teams is far, we're at the limit for what F1 can sustain.
Wasn't it just like 10 or 11 years ago that we had 12 teams?
Was it 2008?
Was it 12 or 13?
Was it after the crash? Because we lost a bunch of
Marussia.
people. Honda left, Toyota.
Caterham.
You had Caterham, Marussia.
What was the
Hispania
Japanese
Racing,
one?
Toyota was briefly there.
Yeah, but there was a Japanese. Who was it? Takuma Sato drove for them. Aguri.
Super.
Superguri.
Yeah,
They left in.
that was a different generation, I think, than the 3 that came in or in like the 2010s around there.
It was
Those
08, 09
teams-
we lost a bunch, right, because of the financial crash. There was, just the global car.
And those teams were lambs to the slaughter. Apparently, they
Big
weren't
time,
even going
big
to
time.
get revenue distribution until they'd proven they could survive in the sport for like 3 years. So they were underfunded. They were denied access to the like funding that F1 teams have, and they kind of all got obliterated. With the exception of, I think Caterham was acquired and then stayed in the sport, right? They came in as like Lotus, became Caterham. I can't remember, but I don't think that team fully went away. I think they exist as a different team these days. But we've had waves of like significantly more cars joining the grid.
Yeah.
Dan, you want to read this next one?
Sure. After listening to the Spa episode and everyone talking about giant fans to dry the track, I had to write in and say they exist, though not quite in the way you guys were imagining. I used to tour with the Formula Drift series, and every track we went to, be it a short oval track or a road track, seemed to have a jet dryer. This, like it sounds, is a gigantic jet engine towed on the back of a pickup truck, usually on a trailer, with a steerable nozzle that can both effectively dry the track and move surprisingly large amounts of standing water. Some manufacturers claim to be able to dry the equivalent of a football field in under 30 seconds. This seems like an incredibly energy inefficient way of doing anything. This I can't remember if this is something that I have seen before in like a photograph or something, but I get the idea that you're just you're just using a massive hairdryer on the track, right? You're just blowing it at and really trying hard not to aim it at a human, I imagine. Is there some is that a problem? Is this a problem? If you're on like 130R and you're like, you're blasting all the water off of, but there's like a
You just launch a track marshal into the air. Just
there's just like a crowd of people there. You're burning their faces. That's wild. I mean, that's the opposite of what we want ultimately. I don't think if they started jet engine drying the tracks, I think I'd leave F1. I'd be like the one thing because rain makes tracks fun.
Oh, I see.
I don't need that. Maybe
would have made a difference
dry
if they'd rolled
one
those
sector.
out though. Yeah, I'd be curious though if you rolled out a fleet of those at that spa they had to cancel because the
Right.
track wouldn't dry off. I do wonder if that moves the needle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A fleet of them. That sounds, just think about all the, energy efficiency conversations around Formula One. And
We use renewable
jet
fuel.
engines.
It's sustainable. It's green fuel. Just say it's green. They're powered by green
It's
fuel.
like
Don't
all
worry about
10 miles of spas being jet engine blasted. And then it will start raining and, we got to set the jets out again. Nah. Sprinklers.
I have some data here. It was 24 cars during the 2010 and 2012 seasons. 2010 through 2012. Seasons.
That's crazy. So after the expansion. Wow.
And in
after the crash.
1995, 13 teams, 26 cars.
You had to qualify probably back then.
I don't remember. Yeah.
Qualify for the race. You get in, you don't get in.
Should I take this one from MJ?
Please. There was no name on my one, right?
No.
MJ writes, I was thinking about Yuki being promoted out of Racing Bulls amidst his decent form and missing out on what has been an exceptional season for the junior team.
Yep.
I started watching F1 in the 2022 season, so I'm not super familiar with how drivers might contribute to the long-term development of the car and how big their impact is, given that Yuki was the one constant driver at Toro Rosso /VCarb /Racing Bull over this iteration of the rules. Should he be getting more credit for this year's surge of performance for that car? I can't imagine that any of his teammates would have been at the team long enough to have a similar impact on the car development compared to Yuki. How much of an impact do drivers really have on the car's development over the years? And would Red Bull benefit from having a driver with potentially a good history of improving the junior team's car? That's a good question. I think this might be difficult for some outsiders to know because that kind of stuff is closely guarded. But I imagine some impact. Probably not a huge amount. I think there's probably there's a ceiling for how much a driver's feedback. Like you reach some threshold of like the driver provides good feedback or enough feedback. I think there are probably exceptions to that. Like I think, some of the greats like, I don't know, Schumacher would have surprisingly exceptional feedback or ability to detect things in a car that regular humans would not, that would then therefore contribute and trickle down the line to improving. I don't know that Yuki is one of those. I think there is something to be said for a consistent source of feedback over the course of development for a while, but would that same consistency be there regardless of a driver? Maybe. So I don't know that Yuki has necessarily demonstrated himself as exceptional beyond the skills of a Formula One driver in general. I do kind of feel for him moving and just consistently this season getting finishing behind the cars that he used to be in. Although I think there's kind of two things happening, right? There's like Racing Bulls has been better this year than they were last year, but also he's in the second Red Bull car, which is cursed.
Yeah, I feel bad for him. I'm sure he helped the team somewhat, but yeah, I think I wouldn't oversubscribe too much of the performance of that car this year or last year to any of the drivers. Necessarily, but yeah,
as a support team, they're kind of in a weird place too. With
yeah,
just how much development do they do for that team specifically? It's hard to say. The whole place is used as a test tube, both for drivers and also for maybe like talent to lead the big team.
Yeah, exactly.
Witness Mekis being promoted.
Yeah, we've just seen that now as well. So yeah, it that team in particular operates as you're right, like its goals are not necessarily orientated the same way as others, but yeah, it does suck for him to be in that position, and it's going to suck for whoever the next driver is that's in that position, I imagine, unless Red Bull really figure this stuff out. And who knows, maybe the regs next year is enough of a shake-up that it allows them to I don't know, create a car that's maybe not as specifically edgy like that Red Bull is.
Also, fact checking ourselves here, Lotus came back to the sport in 2010 and then 2 years later became Caterham, but then Lotus switched to being they took over the Renault team, so they swapped from their own team to being Renault, and Caterham took over the old Lotus team, and then that just went out of business. No one acquired them.
Okay.
Yeah. Same with Marussia, which became Manor and then went out of business.
It's like trying to figure out which vampire made which vampire. Like who bit who? Which one were you before? Okay.
And then they all got staked. All right.
Stake F1 team.
Andrew writes, the This Day in Racing book mentioned that on this day in 1939, Tazio Nuvolari won the Belgrade GP ahead of a string of German drivers. This is not the full story.
Ooh.
What the book doesn't mention, and Americans usually forget, is that World War II started when Nazi Germany invaded Poland on September 1st, 1939, 2 days before the race, and also that on September 3rd, Great Britain and France both declared war on Germany hours before the GP began. Whoa. Only 5 cars actually started the race, 2 auto unions, 2 Mercedes-Benz, and a privately owned Bugatti, because the other teams and drivers from around Europe were either barred from attending or chose not to because of the threat of imminent war.
Whoa.
Hopefully you find this info interesting and provides some context the book sadly omits. Andrew, I do think people also tend to forget that arguably World War II started with Japan invading China 2 years before the Germans invaded Poland. But I understand how these things can be overlooked. Zach also wrote in about this aspect of racing history. Danny's Grimoire mentioned the Hitler-backed racing machines last week, and I wanted to write in and expand on this a little for anyone that's curious. I am pulling from the excellent book Racing the Silver Arrows by Chris Nixon and the documentaries Hitler's Supercars, Nazi Grand Prix, and Racing the Silver Arrows, all free on YouTube. Hitler's Supercars sounds like a History Channel thing, doesn't it?
That's exactly
Hitler's
what I was going to say.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I can just see the sepia-toned black and white with the gold H, superimposed there. Yep.
One of the first major propaganda efforts of the Nazi Party was motor racing to show superior German engineering. This was spearheaded by the stalwart Mercedes-Benz team and then rivaled by the auto union Audi, using designs from Ferdinand Porsche. Each team was given 250,000 Reichsmarks per year to develop the cars and a bonus for whichever side won the championship, which created a very intense rivalry between the two, particularly in engine development. The Mercs were front engine, rear drive, while the Audis were rear engine, rear wheel drive. Mercedes had experienced drivers and mechanics, while Audi did not. This resulted in Audi developing early onboard mechanical telemetry systems to better understand the car, since they didn't have great driver feedback. With that, they understood wheel spin at high spins and then created the limited slip differential to compensate.
Okay.
From 1933 to 1939, the two teams were so dominant that British and French drivers often tried to go to work for them, despite the obvious political weirdness, shame that would come from it. There are even some reports that race promoters would request the two slow down in order for the races to be competitive. However, that may be propaganda. Either way, the two teams raced basically by themselves up until World War II, officially breaking out, and it's a really fascinating era of motorsports to learn about. One that tends to get swept under the rug for obvious reasons, but if you consider the Audi drivers were piloting a supercharged V16 capable of 200 plus miles per hour on tires that about as wide as a laptop while sitting on the gas tank, it's incredibly impressive they were able to finish races at all.
Yeah.
A little bit of history for everyone. Check out those documentaries to learn more. Zach from Savage, Minnesota. Wow, mechanical telemetry is really cool. That your drivers are so shaky that you're creating some sort of mechanical recording system to try and figure out what's going on with your car. Is very, very cool. If memory serves, I have to. So Ferdinand Porsche is a big, memorable name, but if memory serves, he's kind of a fucking idiot as an engineer. Or at least that is the impression I get from when he pops up trying to help the German arms industry during the war, where basically he designed completely impractical, unworkable designs.
We need rear-wheel drive fighter planes.
It's kind of like he didn't understand the tank triangle, right? Where it's armor means weight, means slowness, or you need more power. He was like, what if we could just have all of it? And just designed absolutely completely impractical, useless tanks that consume tons of resources. Once cronyism got hold of German engineering in the under Nazi Germany, it was bad. For it worked out well because obviously they were kind of kneecapping a lot of their arms industry right as they were heading into really needing it. But the notion that Hitler would be we're gonna design the best damn anything ever, and also Hermann Göring probably has a buddy who's great at this, was kind of how things unfolded during those years.
Wow. I gotta check out Hitler's Supercars, I guess.
Or just wait for it to show up just leave History Channel running, and eventually it'll probably show up.
Well, I just go on YouTube now, and just a lot of weird Nazi stuff appears in my feed anyway. Yeah. So I'm not clicking on it, but just so eventually
does History Channel still show history shows on the History Channel?
History of Aliens.
Yeah, it's like Nazis and aliens. That's okay. I mean, they got rid of everything else, but I think Nazis, and particularly Nazis and a cult, I think that was still that's still bread and butter for them. Dan, you want to read this next one?
Sure. Sorry. I'm up again. Burton writes, I've slowly become more and more of a fan over the last 5 years. One thing I still don't really know is what causes tire lockups. It sort of feels like the offsides in hockey when I was getting into that. I knew it was a thing, but it took a while before I actually understood what was happening or why it was being called. Is a tire lockup always driver error, or could it be legitimate reasons for the tire to lock on a car? That's a great question. So I guess tire lockups are... The tire lockup, just for people who maybe haven't considered what that is, that's obviously when instead of the brake slowing down the tire for some reason or another, the actual tire stops rotating entirely, basically, or close to entirely, which is not good because it means that you have less control over the deceleration of the car. It also causes damage to the surface of the tire, what we often refer to as a flat spot, which is essentially like slicing the side of a cake off. And so instead of having a perfect circle, you have a sort of a rectangular or a flat edge on one part, which can cause vibrations for the driver and also result in issues with lack of traction, and can increase the chances of another lockup happening if you have one of those flat spots. So like why lockups happen is kind of like, it can be loads of stuff. It can be, the driver applied too much force to the brakes at a certain point. It can be that you're in a low traction environment, like there's water or ice in rally and stuff like that. On the ground, and you're just not getting as much grip from it. In F1, a large amount of it is also the transfer of weight from the center of the car to the front. The loading that happens in a turn can also distribute so much weight that it creates the dynamics within the tire to essentially lock them up that way. There can be mechanical issues, of course. Issues with brake heat and stuff like that as well. So it's kind of like a murderer's row of reasons why it can happen. And like a lot of stuff in F1, the drivers are managing a lot of this stuff sort of in their heads while they're driving, and a lot of this stuff doesn't get like brought up to us, doesn't get communicated to us necessarily. And like, the changing nature of the race as well, with the tire temperatures, the temperature of the track itself, have the loading at the start of the race because they have so much fuel on board as well. There is no like one reason why it happens. Maybe the most common reason is drivers entering a turn too fast and having to apply more brake than they would like. That's probably the version we see the most, but there's no like one reason why it happens, I guess.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if you're being reductive, you can always say like the driver could have done something differently. In a way, it's almost always like not necessarily driver error, but like driver inputs cause the lockup. I think where people distinguish, there's kind of like lockups that everyone kind of gives a pass to, and like because one of the tricky things is these cars change enormously lap by lap. The weight changes as fuel burns off in the car. Tires they're near the end of their life will break really, really differently than tires that are fresh, and that requires like constant, like minute adjustments to how you're driving. And there is a point also where the tires might be so shot that there's almost nothing you can do to prevent them like locking up, like any sort of they will not bite, and they will just skid along the track surface the minute you put any brake pressure on them. So nobody looks at those incidents where somebody is like, 15 laps past where somebody should have probably pitted for fresh rubber. Nobody looks at that and says, what a dumbass. How how could he lock up there? We tend to give those things a pass. Where there's a lot less forgiveness, for instance, is where you see someone rocketing down toward turn one at a race start. And suddenly there's just like puffs of white smoke everywhere. And then next thing you know, cars are spinning around. That is almost always a wow, you just like really misjudged how this entire scenario was going to unfold. You were carrying too much speed. You were not poised to react to what was in front of you. And then you did the thing that, you know, comes easily to instinct, was just mash the brake and lost control of the car. That stuff is unequivocal driver error. Beyond that, it's always kind of a, you know, it's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, I would say another time you see it, and it is consequential, is in qualifying. And that will say to me that, oh, he's pushing really hard and is trying to, and just went a little bit over the edge because he's, you know, really trying to get the fastest lap time. Another thing that I'll point out, and maybe a lot of people know this, is that, you know, these cars do not have anti-lock brakes.
Yeah.
So there is no system like a road car that will, you know, slowly arrest your tire.
Yeah.
It is all down to the pressure that the driver puts into the brake. And for that reason, the brakes are very, very difficult to push. Because if you think about it, if you want to have a lot of finesse, and the way I think about it sometimes is resolution to the brake, you need it to be difficult to push. And so you also see sometimes if drivers show off their sim racing setups, they have like these super intense looking sim brakes, and it's because they replicate that same feel. Like I just have, you know, my little spring-loaded Logitech, right? Like that is not what goes on in pro sim.
And road cars, like, brakes have very limited travel on them. Like, even just compare your accelerator and your brake together, because the car is effectively taking control of that. I mean, now cars just brake. If you don't slow down, they'll turn themselves, you know, brake themselves, you know. And then obviously there's electric cars which don't really apply brakes much at all. It's more of a mechanical sort of, the retardation occurs on the drivetrain or whatever, or on the electrical. I don't know how batteries.
If you're not putting power in it is trying to harvest power
basically
from the spin of the wheels. Yeah, it's God, I remember, was it this most recent race where Yuki had a dead zone appear on his brake pedal, where he was saying that, like, it wasn't braking at all up to 30% travel, and then it would cut in. And what was not clear to me was it starting at 1% brake input when it would cut in at the 30%,
or would it cut in at
30%? Because both scenarios are bad. But if you've ever had, like, if you're doing racing sim stuff, if you've ever, like, fucked up the dead zone slider,
yes, exactly.
Things get real gnarly. I've never understood people who are like,
I gotta update my drivers.
Why would you have a dead zone this big? Like,
yeah.
You know, unless, like, old analog stuff, you needed dead zones basically to cancel out some of the mechanical iffiness of maybe gear you're using. But, like, I've never understood, like, where you can be like, I want to mash the pedals and I want nothing to happen until we're 50% through the travel.
It's if you want a dead zone your steering, drive a Jeep Wrangler like I do. You can swim around in the middle of that thing and it doesn't care what you're doing. And it is, I guess, the last thing on this, maybe it is worth mentioning that there was a period where F1 did have ABS, you know, but they basically outlawed it in the mid 90s. So because it just became too easy, and it didn't allow for the finesse that the drivers now are able to take control of. You know, it's like drive-by-wire. It's like making it so that the actual drivers themselves are doing as much of the driving as possible while also hooked up to a supercomputer with batteries.
Yeah, they are brake-by-wire, which I think is why you can get an error or a bug like Yuki had.
This is off topic, but you ever think throttle maps are bullshit?
Yeah.
I think so too, right?
Yeah.
Like that we've the pedals do different things at different points of the track.
Yeah.
To sort of soften your, like,
and that you can have multiple ones of them, one for quali, one for early race, one for I'm not a fan. To me, that's a great example, I think, of something like ABS. Like you're sort of deferring. I mean, like, there has to be a throttle map in the car. You know what I mean? Like, so, but like, the idea that you can
But
just
it's
change them all the-
dynamically adjusting.
Yeah,
like,
the dynamic
corner
side
is absurd.
I mean, the funniest thing
Like-
that happened was who was it who got out of their throttle map order?
Well, it was Russell, right, on a restart because the things like dynamically adjust.
Yeah, he broke at the wrong time and it was like, oh, I thought you were on turn 5, so now we're gonna
Yep.
do it from here. Yeah,
And started like starving him of power and all that. Yeah, I think it was Russell earlier this year, and that's where I realized like I don't know if I like these throttle maps.
Yeah,
like
I'm with you
throttle
on that.
maps. Good when I'm using a gamepad controller in a racing game because like those don't have the resolution to Drew's point to really like triggers are not pedals, so that's you kind of need a throttle map for that for it to feel right. But like Oscar Piastri's got some game. He should be able to figure that shit out.
So here's the question: is if you got rid of if you got rid of dynamic throttle maps, is the rule that you cannot dynamically change your throttle map? Because then are we just giving the drivers another thing to do? Because that's kind of the problem they're going to have with the batteries next year. Is that like that's something that we're not the recharge and the deployment stuff is going to be so much more work for them, they keep saying, in these 2026 cars, and it's not something that's being handled by a system within the car, and it's taking away from the racing, yada yada.
That's an interesting question because I think some drivers would definitely want to adjust it for different parts of the lap to change how the controls are.
Yeah, like Verstappen's going to be tinkering with that stuff.
I don't know. Max is an odd one. Like there are times where I genuinely think. He gave a quote earlier this week where he's like, "Bring back the cars." I think he said the cars were perfect back in like 2010 or something like that, or like 1998. Some year he picked out of the
Before
hat.
the turbo hybrid era.
Was,
that's what he's saying.
Yeah,
I think it was
basically. Yeah, and there is a part of me that I think like Max is dead on the level with his like return to traditional driving standards. Like I think if it was like if given the option, it's like we're gonna cut radio comms. It's all gonna be powered, not drive by wire, nothing. It's all gonna be like mechanical. Like he seems like a weird enough guy that he might be like, hell yeah, that's exactly what I want. Despite the fact his entire driving style seems like it's an artifact of the digital age of driving. But it's a weird one. Last thing we should hit on before we go, Drew. We got a couple really good emails about our comments about Stefano Domenicali. Two people found the entire exchange and Domenicali's thoughts about the future of F1 and what it needs to do to capture new audiences very reminiscent of NASCAR some years ago. We got a couple good emails about that.
Okay, yes, here we go. Jack writes, "Hi guys, your discussion of Domenicali's remarks about race length and sprint weekends reminded me of something I've been thinking for years. Quote, or colon, F1 is making the same choices that NASCAR made during their boom era in the early 2000s, just before and after the death of Dale Earnhardt. There's plenty of folks on YouTube who have covered this period in NASCAR history thoroughly. Shout out to Slapshoes. But I'll do my best to summarize. Planned yellow flags, stage racing. In an effort to prevent the field from getting too spread out over 300 to 400 lap races, NASCAR has implemented stage racing, where 2 yellow flags will be waved at predetermined laps during the race. NASCAR also mandates double-wide restarts, which is intended to increase the amount of side-by-side racing. An unintended consequence of these planned caution periods is convergence of strategy, unless the track surface creates a lot of tire wear. The double-wide restarts also have the benefit of generating dramatic crashes and near misses, which NASCAR loves to put in their highlight reels. The chase / the playoffs. Probably the most universally hated change made since the death of Dale Earnhardt is the playoffs, originally called the chase for the cup. The idea is to force the championship to go down to the last race, i.e. the champion is crowned not based on their overall season performance and points total, but on high finishing positions or race wins at key points in the last 10 races of the year. The system has no allowance for mechanical failures, poorly timed yellow flags, or unlucky crashes with back markers. Most longtime NASCAR fans see this system as an illegitimate championship, and even the drivers have pointed out that winning the championship today is nothing like the days of Petty or Earnhardt. All this to say, F1's move to more street circuits in major metropolitan areas at the expense of classic tracks, increasing the number of sprint weekends to drive attendance numbers and TV viewing time, and now Domenicali's talk of shortening races to increase viewership all sounds eerily similar to the choices NASCAR made 20 years ago. Perhaps time will tell if they are similar mistakes.
I hear the general sentiment here. I don't think Jack is saying that there is a through line between the changes that Domenicali is making and the specific changes that happened in NASCAR, but the idea of evolving the sport to make it more viewer friendly, I guess, is the thing here. I don't want to be a Luddite. Like I don't have a problem with them changing the sport. Like it's not like F1 is perfect. Like there are problems, even in good seasons, the overtaking is a constant problem. The convergence of the or the divergence of the lead car from the rest of the pack continues to be an issue, which is more unique to F1 because it is because of the just the different amounts of investment and whatnot that the teams have or expertise. So I obviously it's not 1-to-1, and I don't think that's what Jack is saying. But I don't want to write off some of these changes either. Like in the background, the most important stuff that they're working on is the regulation stuff. Like that's ultimately what's changing the sport more than a lot of this stuff. And I think their hearts are in the right place when it comes to the regulations. It's just so difficult to establish rule sets, be them racing rules or mechanical, construction rules that converge the teams and sort of create dynamically, competitive races that then, last for years instead of becoming harder to do until the next set of regulations again. It's like hindsight's 2020, right? So like whenever F1 eventually has it's had so many boom years. It's like the stock market. Eventually there has to be some sort of reaction to that. So when that happens, there's going to be a lot of finger pointing, and it could have something. F1 has often been at the whim of economic things that have nothing to do with the actual show that they're putting on. I don't necessarily think any of the things that they're doing at the moment are likely to do that, but I hear what Jack is saying in the sort of totality of this. Maybe they're forgetting about something else that's as important. I think a lot is riding on the current regs coming in, and then also whatever they're thinking about doing with these V8s in a couple of years. But yeah, it's worth thinking about for sure. I also think the playoffs are total nonsense. I hate it.
Well, we've got one more along this line. Mitch writes, I appreciated your discussion this week about Stefano Domenicali's plans to continue the growth of F1. I am struck by how similar F1's plans for capitalizing on this boom are similar to the mistakes that NASCAR made following its boom period in the 90s and early 2000s. Just a few examples. Number one, in the late 90s, NASCAR invested in non-traditional NASCAR markets, directly supporting many projects to build expensive tracks with huge seating capacities that ran counter to the short track racing in the Southeast USA, for which the sport was founded. Tracks were built in Las Vegas, Dallas, Kentucky, Kansas, Los Angeles, and Chicago. While expanding to new markets was certainly a prudent business decision, the way they did so was a mistake. They, A, invested in tracks that were largely similar to one another, 1.5-mile tri-ovals that produced lackluster racing, and B, gave those new tracks race dates at the expense of tracks that were part of the core identity of NASCAR, North Wilkesboro and Rockingham as two examples.
This is starting to sound familiar.
To me, this feels like the same thing F1 is doing by leaving or threatening to leave purpose-built circuits in Hockenheim, Nürburgring, Spa, and Barcelona in favor of street circuits in Jeddah, Miami, Vegas, and Madrid.
Yeah.
Example number 2, NASCAR is to mechanic as F1 is to engineer. Part of the fun of NASCAR was the stock car aspect of the racing. The cars looked like the models they represented and the audience might own for personal use. A fan of Ford cars might cheer for the Fords in NASCAR because it genuinely felt like a competition of Ford power versus Chevy versus Pontiac. The teams were competing not only in racecraft, but in tuning and reliability. The Car of Tomorrow, 2007, ended that feeling. The cars were suddenly all the same, and it felt like the only difference between the cars was which badge sticker was slapped on the livery. Stefano Domenicali talking about simplifying engineering language in F1 is the same level of mistake. F1's core audience deeply cares about the engineering aspect of this sport. It's why we know and care about who Adrian Newey is and where he works. It's why we watch and discuss preseason testing and why my friends make jokes about dual-axis steering, double diffusers, and fan cars. NASCAR alienated people who care about the mechanics of NASCAR, and F1 is openly discussing the alienation of people who care about the engineering of F1. Anyway, the lesson of the last 30 years of NASCAR is that they alienated their core audience to chase the high of briefly being the belle of the ball. They left their core markets physically and then left them spiritually with the Car of Tomorrow and the gimmicks of the race season and format. The race and season format. F1 seems to be bailing on the core audience physically and is actively discussing how to bail on them spiritually as well. I hope F1 wisens up and doesn't suffer the same decline in popularity that NASCAR has following their own boom period.
2 great emails. Yeah. Great insight. Let me just, I feel like I'm the least knowledgeable NASCAR person here, so let me just get my one out of the way here. I deeply agree with the first example, with the tracks. I think that this is a existential problem for F1 that they're rolling into. It's the fact that they keep dropping all of these interesting tracks that we've had over the years. You know, we often talk about, Turkey or Malaysia and, places where we tended to have good races in favor of, these street circuits in petrochem states. So I definitely agree with that. I'm not so sure on the second one. I don't necessarily, NASCAR is more competitive than F1 is, right? Like where drivers end up, who wins championships. Obviously, the playoffs are part of this whole thing as well, rolling the dice. But I think I have always felt, and this might be a personal thing, I think I have always felt a little bit of pushback in my heart whenever I hear people say they left the real fans behind, because I think like sports like this do require mainstream audiences. They're too expensive
to survive.
Yeah, you can't. I don't think most people who watch F1 have a clue who Adrian Newey is. I don't think they care. And I think one of the problems that we've run into in F1 more than any other racing spec, I think, is a team dominating because of a mechanical advantage. And I don't think it's particularly sporting, and I don't think it makes for great races. So I totally agree with the first example. I don't really agree with the second one. I think there's an element of truth to it, but I wouldn't overly romanticize the idea that and maybe I'm not saying that like NASCAR going into a spec series was a great idea. I'm not necessarily saying that, but like I think there might be an over romanticization of that particular aspect and how important it is to a mainstream audience. Ultimately, people want to see tight competitions, right? And I don't really think that F1 is great at that.
I think I also, to speak for myself here, I want to see tight competitions, but I think I mostly am excited about the competition because I know what it takes to do well. That is, the engineering aspect is intrinsic to that. I'm hoping that Domenicali talking about simplifying the engineering language is merely that it is the outward appearance of these sorts of things and making them more accessible to people rather than actually dumbing down the things required to be great in F1.
So like the front, what was it? The front wing, what was it? Like Z and X modes?
Oh yeah.
Like that, like
Z mode and X mode.
Like they're not dumbing down the tech, but they're dumbing down the way we talk about it, or what they've done with tire compounds on television these days,
which I think that's a great example because I think that's a good change.
Yeah,
the soft, medium, and hard.
It's funny.
Under the hood, we're racing different compounds here, but
week.
In the context of the race weekend, there are only soft, medium, and hard.
I do feel, though, they've had to bring up more and more now. Okay, so the hard this week is actually kind of a medium on the spectrum of like they're having to sort of hedge around that, where it's like, okay, so the thing is, this tire is actually pretty soft. I know it's the hard, but the drivers are talking about it this way. I think it's tricky. I don't know how happy NASCAR fans are at this moment. I do think I have been surprised just watching IndyCar how much I've started to realize like short oval racing blows the fucking doors off super speedway racing.
Right.
Like give me a short oval, and that's going to be some stuff. But the F1 thing, I think Adrian Newey's an interesting case because he's been around the sport for like 40 years and famous for like 20 of those years. And I don't know that even at the height of Ferrari was Ross Brawn treated. I know he wasn't he was well regarded. And when he took over Brawn GP, that was, but I don't think it was ever. Yeah. This guy is like the wizard of F1 engineering who's going to show up and make your car competitive. I don't think any of the guys involved in Mercedes' latest era of dominance ever achieved that level of, well, these, this Mercedes team, this is the dream team from the engineering standpoint. I think F1 fans, some care more about the engineering, some care less. I think it's important, though, that aspect of this, like, I think it's helpful for there to be stuff for really hyper engaged and like knowledgeable viewers to like sort of remain engaged by. But the NASCAR examples, though, I think the stuff that resonates the most with me is this notion that we just have to chase expansion and dilute what has gotten us to this point. And I think with F1, there's a real risk. I think a lot of executives suffer from this. Who doesn't want to think they're good at their job? Everyone wants to think they're good at their job. Everyone wants to think like, oh, if this thing has increased tremendously in value, I did that. Like I was in charge of the company, and it makes so much more money now than it did when I took over, and that's because of me. F1 was run by one of the stingiest, weirdest, most retrograde people that you can imagine for like, again, 35 years. Right. Like Bernie Ecclestone fundamentally thought YouTube clips were thieving. Yeah. Like he was like, that's stealing. Yeah. Like if stuff exists on YouTube, that's just stolen. Like YouTubers should be put to death. And he was right, but not for those reasons.
If you had a logo, if you had a logo for the F1,
that's right.
On your video game website, you fell a cropper of him as well.
So like so much of F1, it was like actively discouraging new audiences and new fans like from discovering the sport. And as those of us who watched F1 during those years, like it was a great product. It was a lot of fun. It was just really inaccessible, especially digitally, for a number of years. Bernie sells the sport. New people come in and are like, we should put this on YouTube. We should create some digital distribution for like races. Sure, let's have a documentary team shoot a season of a Netflix show here. Who gives a shit? Like let's give it a try. And the sport grows considerably. These are not like genius business brain decisions. This is just stop being hostile to what is sort of a modern media entity, in the digital era. And I think F1 can be in a little bit of trouble because they're saying like, what can we control to keep this growth going? And some of the mistake is it kind of just happened. Like why things become popular, why they don't, can be really hard to pin down. With F1, I don't think it's that hard to pin down. It was more obscure than it should have been. It was badly run. Right. All you had to do was take those ankle weights off, and the sport sort of naturally ascended to a different level of audience. But now it's like, how do we keep delivering that growth? Well, that's only going to happen once. You're only going to replace Bernie once and bring the sport into the modern era. You can jam as many American races onto the calendar as you want. I don't think that's going to do what they're hoping it's going to do. You can start trying to figure out like how to make races more TikTok friendly. I don't think it means the kids are going to be super into F1, but this is what C-suite people start thinking is, well, if I made it popular before, I'll bet I have other ideas to make it popular again.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for the emails. You can also hit us up, shift.f1podcast@gmail.com, f1.cool/emails, and the links in our show notes. That's us around the internet. Danny, should we take it around the world?
Let's race around the world. Yeah.
Formula 2 is supporting Formula 1 this weekend in Baku. We've got the Craftsman trucks in Loudon, New Hampshire at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway for the EJP 175. Not sure where that is. Motocross Grand Prix is in Australia at the Hidden Valley Raceway.
Hidden Valley
Raceway.
Yeah, Hidden Valley.
Does it belong on pizza? Super GT is at Sportsland Sugo. That's a motorsports facility in the town of Murata, Shibata District, Miyagi Prefecture. The IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship is at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the TireRack.com Battle on the Bricks.
Whoa, let's do it. The
NHRA is at the ZMAX Dragway in Concord, North Carolina for the 4-wide Carolina Nationals.
Yeah.
MotoGP is at Motegi.
Twin Ring.
That's, well, formerly. It's the Mobility Resort Motegi
Boo!
in Haga District, Tochigi Prefecture.
Boo.
The World Superbike Championship is in Aragon in Spain.
Will the hobbits get to Mount Doom? With his help.
And, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead. That's the following weekend.
Still
Motegi
glad
and
you mentioned
Aragon.
it. Glad you mentioned it.
Get ready for next weekend. Yeah. We've also got NASCAR.
Yeah.
Also in Loudon, New Hampshire for the Mobile One 301.
A classic.
A lot of numbers.
Classic American oil.
Y'all like maths.
Motor oil.
And Formula One. Maybe you've heard of it. Friday, September 19th, Free Practice 1 kicks off at 4:30 a.m. Eastern Time. That's 1:30 Pacific. On ESPNU, followed by Free Practice 2 at 8 a.m. Eastern, also on ESPNU. Saturday, September 20th, Free Practice 3 is at 4:30 a.m. again on ESPN2, with qualifying at 8 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2. But the race, everyone, Sunday, September 21st, 7 a.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Danny, you waking up at 4?
Hell nah. This is one of the ones I will not be waking up for. Sorry, Baku. I'll see you in the morning. I'll see you with my frosted flakes.
Nice.
Who knows? If my daughter sleeps in, then maybe 8 a.m.
That's what's happening this weekend. Danny, what happened this day in history?
In the past, when Damon Hill won the World Championship in 1996, he had effectively already been sacked by his Williams team. And he ended up in an uncompetitive Arrows for the following season. Today in 1997, he announced he was leaving Arrows to sign for Jordan in a deal thought to be funded by the team's title sponsor, Benson and Edges. Damon said, "My aim is to win races and challenge for the World Championship. Jordan has shown in 1997 that they can challenge for motorsport's greatest prizes. This team is going to be a very strong force. The deal gives me the most competitive situation I could have." Honda is not the only car maker to suddenly pull out of F1 in the recent years. And today, when was this book? So let me tell you, man, the Honda situation's gotten complicated. And today in 2004, Ford announced it was pulling the plug on the Jaguar F1 team at the end of the season. The team was originally Stuart Ford, but Ford had taken control and rebranded it in 2000 amid much fanfare. Sadly, the pomp was not backed by results, which were consistently miserable throughout the team's 4-year existence. So, bit of a downer this week, but crucially, everyone survived.
That's right.
Yeah.
Jaguar became Red Bull, and Jordan became Midland, then Spiker, then Force India, then Racing Point, then Aston Martin.
It was very funny to have an Irish F1 team. Let me tell you, that was
For a long time.
That was a good time. We are That's a small country. There are 4 million people. More now, but back then.
But a sporting people.
But a sporting people. A land of saints and scholars and sports folks. That's us. That's what they say. And leprechauns. We also gave you the 2 best days off of the year, or festivals of the year. I guess Christmas is good because you got presents. But come on, Paddy's Day and Halloween.
I feel like St. Patty's is divisive.
Is it? I guess, yeah.
Just
you
because
lived in
it's public
Massachusetts,
drunkenness.
so-
Like it's like I think it has like SantaCon levels of bad rap in some ways. So I don't know that people are super. Thanks for St. Patrick's Day,
Yeah.
Ireland.
Okay, well, Halloween's great. So, you know,
There you go.
gotta give us that one.
All right. Well, we have run long somehow with nothing.
Woo!
Thank you to all those awesome emails.
Yes.
Those were substantive, not nothing. If you'd like to support the show and get access to all of our bonus episodes, the early ad-free version of the podcast, and the official Shift+F1 Discord, you can do so over at patreon.com/ShiftF1. Have a good race weekend, everyone. We will see you all next week.
Meow.